Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and breakup coach. You can change the language of this podcast in the YouTube video settings. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing Dumper Remorse Timeline. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing Dumper Remorse Timeline. So if you've been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need them to feel remorse. But when will this happen? In today's podcast, I'll be discussing the 3 stages that your ex-dumper will go through for them to feel remorse. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is relief. Now let me know in the comments if you feel that your ex has or is currently feeling relief after your breakup. Let me know in the comments and let's see what the community thinks. So when you hear as a dumpee me talking about your ex-dumper going through a stage of relief during their timeline, that is probably not something that you're particularly happy or excited to hear. I mean, you want to get your ex back and you're now hearing that your ex-dumper, generally speaking, is going to be feeling relief post-breakup. That is something you're not going to be happy with. You want them back. You don't want them relieved that the relationship is over, relieved that the breakup has taken place. But please listen through, because all is not what it seems, and things can turn around. Although it is important for me to say that there is no 100% guaranteed way to get an ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time, and nothing fails 100% of the time. But you absolutely can increase your chances of success due to your behaviour post-breakup. And additional to that is the experiences that your ex-dumper will go through independent of your behaviour. So if we compare and consider and include what you do post-breakup and what they go through post-breakup, that is where we can see your chances of success growing or unfortunately sometimes falling. But what we can say without much doubt at all is that most dumpers will initially feel relief after the breakup. Now this isn't just because they're thinking, well, I'm so happy, I've got rid of my dumpee, I'm so delighted that's the case. Actually, that is very, very rare that someone will feel relief due to those feelings. Now they might do if you are being abusive in the relationship. If you are honest with yourself and you acknowledge you are abusive in your relationship, then yes, your ex-dumper may have ended the relationship due to your behaviour and the way you treated them, and now they might be feeling relief because you are no longer part of their life in that way. That's understandable. I'm sure you can consider that if you acknowledge that you were abusive. But most people listening to this wouldn't have been abusive. Most people listening to this as a dumpee would not have treated their ex-dumper badly at all. And that is why they might be feeling really upset to know that their ex-dumper is likely feeling relief. But the reason why your ex is feeling relief is going to be because they are relieved that they have done something that they didn't want to do. Nobody gets into a relationship with a plan of ending it. So when you and your now ex-dumper got together, the idea for both of you was for you to live happily ever after. There was no plan of after 2 months, 2 years, 20 years to end the relationship. You wanted to keep going and hopefully see through your lives together. That would have been the plan. Now, unfortunately, for whatever reason, your now ex-dumper started to lose romantic emotional attraction towards you. Now, this could have been for various potential reasons. It could have happened suddenly, but much more likely it would have happened slowly over time. And as it happened, they would have started to question whether this relationship was good for them, whether they should be in this relationship, whether this relationship is really satisfying, fulfilling, and making them happy. And unfortunately, when they came to a conclusion that this relationship you are in is not satisfying, fulfilling, or making them happy, that is when they decided they need to action the breakup. Now, this very rarely happens suddenly. It often takes a lot of thought, weeks, if not months, if not even longer than that sometimes. So your ex-dumper would have, generally speaking, come to a conclusion somewhat slowly over time. And they're thinking to themselves, I don't want this to end, but I feel it needs to end. I certainly don't want to hurt my partner, who will become my dumpee. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to break their heart. But I feel I need to leave a relationship. And hence, if and when they come to the moment where they action the breakup, they actually feel relief, because the fear that they was building up, the anxiety, the upset, the worry, the fact they don't want to hurt you, it's now happened, and that horrible part of what they were imagining is now over in their mind. That is often the reason why your ex-dumper will be feeling relief initially post-breakup. They're just relieved that the worst bit is over in their mind. And bearing in mind and considering that they believe that they can find, by going down a different path, happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, they now believe they've done the difficult part, and now they are on their way to finding the happiness that they seek. That is why they feel that relief most of the time. And as a dumpee, that might still not make you feel that great, but hopefully you can understand, most dumpers do not want to hurt you. Most dumpers are worried about hurting you, and most dumpers are relieved when they've actioned the breakup, not because they hate you. If anything, they love you still in a certain way, to a certain degree, and therefore they're relieved that the difficult part, as they see it, has now taken place, and they can hopefully now live their life a little easier. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please give this video a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is the single honeymoon period. So today we're speaking about the dumper remorse timeline. The fact that your ex-dumper could one day feel remorse and regret for ending your relationship. And if you want them back, you absolutely need them to get to that place. But before they get there, they have to experience the life that they envisioned for themselves. Now remember, we were talking about how your ex-dumper, sadly, was not feeling happiness, satisfaction, or fulfillment with you towards the end of your relationship. Well, they're now gambling that by going on a different path, they will eventually find that in some way, likely eventually with someone else. I know you don't want to think about this, but eventually, of course, that is the logical step. Now, this is not often going to happen quickly. And if it does seem to happen quickly, well, ironically, it's probably not going to last. From my research, if you get into a relationship within a year or so post-breakup, that is not likely to last the test of time. So if your ex-dumper suddenly gets into a new relationship a couple of months later, post-breakup, the likelihood is this will end almost as soon as it began, within a few months down the line. This is what we call a rebound relationship. Now that type of situation can arise by something which your ex-dumper is going to be going through right now, that I refer to as the single honeymoon period. It's a period of time where your ex-dumper is happily single, happily living a life that they didn't feel they could live when they was in the relationship with you. Now, as I've just mentioned, that might actually mean dating new people. We don't want to think of that, but it might be a possibility. But often, it's not even focused on that. Often, it's more about reconnecting with friends that maybe they've lost touch with, or perhaps making new connections. Maybe doing hobbies and interests that they never had time to do before when they was in your relationship. Maybe experiencing things that you weren't really keen on. You didn't really want them to do. And now if you find out they are doing it, well, you might not be overly interested or even happy about it. They're almost trying to do what they couldn't do previously. They're now trying it now. And this is why we call it the single honeymoon period, because everything feels exciting, new, fresh. It doesn't have to necessarily be brand new to them, but certainly new for the first time in many, many months, if not many, many years. So they're living this life, mixing with old friends or new, doing activities, maybe going on a few dates or whatnot. They're living this life. Everything seems fantastic. However, this doesn't last forever, because everything which initially seems exciting eventually becomes boring. Everything which initially feels good and new and fresh eventually becomes somewhat stale and old. And this is why the single honeymoon period, although it can be daunting for a dumpee to hear about, it's actually not necessarily a bad thing, because what we do know is your ex-dumper will have to come through the other side. And when they come through the other side, everything which they have been doing is going to have lost its shine. So how long does the single honeymoon period last? Well, from my research, it tends to last 6 to 12 months. 6 to 12 months post-breakup, they'll be doing their thing. Maybe you are surprised to hear what they're doing. Maybe you're not surprised. Maybe you see it on social media. Maybe mutual friends tell you. Maybe you are shocked. Maybe you think, oh, yeah, I can understand that they'd be doing this. I half expected it. Whatever it may be, they are living their life to the full in the way that they see it. And if you are sitting at home, dumpees, if you are feeling sorry for yourself, and listen, you've got every right to be feeling sad and worried and concerned. I understand that. I completely respect your anxiety that you feel. But if you are sitting at home alone and you hear about these things, it's going to make matters even worse for you, which is why you need to live your life for you as well. You can't be clock watching. You can't be sitting at home alone doing nothing, because your ex-dumper is likely living their life. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be as exciting as I've even just described. It might be that your ex-dumper is just spending a little time with friends once a week, and most of the time going home alone, just enjoying what they would deem as their freedom from the relationship, doing things in a routine they want to. And also, please bear in mind that social media is PR, it's public relations. It's not necessarily true. Half the time, it's very inflated, what you see. So if you think your ex is living their best life, they're just presenting that to you. It doesn't necessarily mean it is this exciting and amazing. Yes, maybe once or twice a week they're doing something, but 5 or 6 days a week, they're probably just at home alone. So don't let that affect you. But on the same hand, you need to really focus on you, not them. You need to live your life, because your ex-dumper is likely living theirs. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. This is the best and diamond level of support that I can provide. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is the crossroads. Now, the crossroads is the moment that you as a dumpee are looking for. It's that moment where your ex-dumper exits the single honeymoon period. They've now left that time where they are enjoying themselves in a way where everything seems fresh, new and exciting. It now feels kind of boring and old. What they enjoyed doing for half a year or a year or so, they don't really necessarily want to do anymore, okay? It's already been, it's already gone. The dates they've been on have likely dried up. Any short-term relationship was exactly that. It's fizzled out. It's not easy to find a long-term connection. So what happens when somebody exits the single honeymoon period? Well, they hit what I call the crossroads. The crossroads is that moment where you can no longer run away from your feelings and the experiences that you've had from your past. You and your ex was in a relationship. They may have tried to bury their head in the sand for the last half a year to a year, but now they can no longer do this. Now they need to really self-reflect, look in the mirror, metaphorically, and really consider, was it the right decision? Are they in the place they want to be 6 months to a year down the line? Is this something that they really expected when they consider where they're at now compared to where they were at before? And bearing in mind, the single honeymoon period is my own theory, it's a concept. This is something that your ex-dumper might come and go through after a month or two, or it might be even longer, 2 to 3 years. You know, I'm just talking in a generalized sense when I see it being 6 to 12 months. That is the generalized average that I see, but it could be sooner, it could be longer. Eventually though, your ex will self-reflect. Was it the right decision? Did I make the right choice? Well, if they are considering this, perhaps they are not feeling as great as they thought they would. They are not in a brand new relationship which is working out great. They're likely single. They're not enjoying their days. Every single moment of life is not brilliant. They've now realised that sometimes, maybe even often, things are quite mundane. So things their end are not particularly brilliant or amazing, and they're now wondering about yourself. And this is where it all ties in, because your behaviour post-breakup is going to dictate whether your ex-dumper is intrigued enough to revisit your connection. Are they going to start regrowing romantic emotional attraction for you, or are they instead going to think, actually, I made the right decision? Well, that depends on what you have done post-breakup. Now, it's not as simple as you do your bit and it's all going to fall the way you hope. As I've said, there is no guaranteed way to get an ex back, but you can increase your chances. And if your ex-dumper comes to the point at the crossroads where they're not really happy with their own life right now, and yet they consider you in a higher regard to when they ended the relationship, this is when they might reach out to you. This is when they might feel dumper's remorse. This is exactly how the timeline can play out. So what do you do? What can you do to increase that chance of success? Well, I've spoke about it in depth in many podcasts. And if you want specific, unique advice for you, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service where me and you can speak one-on-one. But in a generalized sense, I would suggest that as a dumpee, you never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. That straight away means that they have opportunity to miss you because you are not putting yourself in their orbit. That is just an initial perspective of what you need to consider. Can my dumper miss me? Well, they can't if you are always in their life. That is just one step and one part though. You need to grow as a person and become a version 2.0 of yourself. You need to use the hints, tips and advice I've given to increase your attractiveness, not just to your ex-dumper, but to anybody else as well. If you do all of these things combined and more, you will really put yourself in a fantastic position for when your ex-dumper gets to the crossroads, for them to think, actually, I think I've made a mistake. I'm now feeling dumper's remorse.